a predator who thinks he's in control, until the prey bites back. Episode 6 of Dexter Resurrection throws us into a tense game of cats and mouse, where every move feels calculated, every clue feels personal, and the hunter isn't sure if he's still the one holding the knife. This isn't just another crime to solve. This is a direct challenge to Dexter's code, his instincts, and even his sanity. And from the very first scene, it's clear the stakes have never been higher. The episode opens with an eerie calm. Dexter is in his apartment, methodically cleaning his tools, the routine that usually brings him focus. But this time, the air feels different. There's a small box on his kitchen counter, no note, no return address. Inside, wrapped in black velvet, is a cat's collar. A faint smear of dried blood stains the tag, which reads simply, "Run." It's not the kind of message meant to scare the average person. It's meant for someone who understands the thrill of the hunt. Someone like Dexter. We flash back briefly to the end of episode 5, where Dexter narrowly escaped a setup in an abandoned warehouse. The memory lingers in his mind as he examines the collar, turning it over like it's a puzzle piece. There's something about the scent, faint traces of oil and pine, that makes him think of the docks. It's a deliberate detail, like a breadcrumb left for him to follow. The killer isn't hiding. They're inviting him to play, but the most unsettling part is the precision. Whoever sent this knows exactly where Dexter lives, exactly how to get inside without leaving a trace. It's not just a taunt. It's a sign of dominance. Dexter realizes this isn't an ordinary adversary. This is someone who understands him, maybe even mirrors him. That thought both intrigues and unnerves him, because he's spent years avoiding reflections like that. Still, Dexter can't resist the pull of the challenge. He takes the collar to his private workspace and runs a few tests. Under UV light, tiny numbers appear etched into the leather coordinates. They lead to an old section of the city's waterfront, an area long abandoned after a fire gutted the warehouses years ago. It's a place with no cameras, no witnesses, and no reason for anyone to be there unless they're planning something. The tension builds as Dexter gears up. His movements are precise, but there's a slight edge to them, a sign that he's not as confident as usual. As he drives toward the coordinates, he notices subtle signs that he's being watched, the same black sedan appearing in his mirror twice. The brief flicker of a camera flash from an upper floor window. It's the kind of detail he'd normally exploit, but tonight it just adds to the unease. When he arrives, the location feels like a trap. The docks are silent except for the rhythmic slap of water against rotting wood. A single light flickers in the distance, drawing him toward it. On the ground, a line of chalk outlines a crude cat's paw print leading into a warehouse. Inside, he finds another collar, this one belonging to a dog, and a Polaroid photo taped to it. The image is of Dexter himself, taken earlier that day as he left a grocery store. The caption, scrawled in red ink, "Your move." At that moment, Dexter knows the rules have shifted. He's not just chasing a killer anymore. He's in the middle of a game where every move is predicted, every step watched. And as much as he wants to believe he's still the one in control, the reality is dawning on him. Someone else is holding the leash. The final beat of this section comes when a distant sound breaks the silence, the faint meow of a cat. It echoes through the empty warehouse, playful yet chilling. Dexter follows it, his footsteps slow, controlled, until the sound stops abruptly, replaced by the sharp click of a camera shutter somewhere in the dark. In that instant, Dexter realizes the truth. The hunt has already begun, and this time, he might be the one being herded into the kill zone. The meow fades into silence, leaving only the sound of Dexter's own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He doesn't move. At first, in this kind of game, rushing in is what gets you caught. Instead, he lets his eyes adjust to the darkness, scanning for the smallest flicker of movement. That's when he notices it. A faint red dot gliding across the floor. It's not a laser pointer from a cat toy. It's a sniper sight, and it's drifting toward him. Instinct takes over. He ducks behind a stack of rusted crates just as a bullet shatters the wooden beam where his head had been. The shot isn't meant to kill him, not yet. It's a message, another step in the taunting dance this killer has choreographed. Whoever they are, they want Dexter to know they're close that they could end it at any second. It's power, pure and simple. And that power is starting to gnaw at him in a way he hasn't felt in years. Dexter edges along the crates, his mind processing possibilities. A direct attack is reckless. This killer wouldn't risk exposure unless they've already covered their tracks. That means the building is probably rigged. Cameras, motion sensors? Maybe more hidden shooters. Every creak of the floorboards feels amplified, like the sound is being fed directly to someone's headset. The psychological warfare is working, then comes the next clue, or trap. On the far wall, barely visible in the dim light, is a crude chalk drawing of a cat chasing a mouse. But there's something off. The cat's tail is shaped like a scythe, and the mouse is looking back, smiling, a reversal of roles. Dexter moves closer, realizing the chalk lines are drawn over a sheet of paper taped to the wall. He peels it back and finds a printed crime scene photo from years ago, one of his own kills. This wasn't public record. The only people who could have had this were inside the investigation. Or someone who had been there that night. The implication hits hard. This isn't just a copycat studying Dexter from afar. This is someone with first-hand knowledge of his work, someone who may have been in the shadows all along, watching him. Perfect his craft, a sudden crash upstairs pulls his attention. He races up the narrow stairwell, careful to avoid the boards that groan under weight. At the top, the room is empty except for a single hanging light bulb swinging slowly, as if someone had just brushed past it. On the floor is another photo, this time of Harrison. Dexter's breath catches. His son isn't just a target in this game, he's a pawn. The caption on the back reads, "Will he be the cat or the mouse?" The rage that surges through Dexter is cold, focused. If the killer wanted to provoke him, it's working. The rules of the game have just changed. No longer is this about curiosity or professional pride. It's about protecting Harrison at all costs. But even in his fury, Dexter knows charging out blindly will only get them both killed. He takes the photo, slipping it into his pocket, and scans the floor. There, a fresh set of muddy footprints leading to a side exit. The killer is leaving a trail, but not the kind that leads to capture. It's a path meant to pull Dexter deeper into their web, into terrain they control. The next steps of the chase take him through the dockyard maze, rusting machinery, shipping containers stacked like tombstones, and shadows that seem to move on their own. Several times he catches a glimpse of a figure in a dark coat, but every time he gives chase, they vanish, leaving behind small tokens, a playing card, a torn strip of fabric, a discarded bullet casing. Each object is like a piece of a story he's supposed to put together. But time isn't on his side. By the time he circles back toward his car, there's a fresh note under the windshield wiper. The handwriting matches the earlier messages. "You can't catch me if you don't know who I am." Dexter crumples it in his fist, feeling the weight of the truth settle in. This killer is always one step ahead, and for the first time in a long while, Dexter Morgan is playing catch-up. The game of cats and mouse is no longer just about winning. It's about surviving long enough to turn the tables. And in Dexter's mind, there's only one way to end this. Find the predator, strip away their control, and make them understand what it feels like to be prey. Asterisk, the night air is cold against Dexter's skin, but his mind is burning. Every step the killer has taken so far has been to keep him off balance, push him into reacting, force him to make mistakes. But now, after the photo of Harrison and the taunting chase through the docks, Dexter sees the pattern. This isn't random chaos. It's a puzzle, and every piece has been deliberately placed to lead him somewhere. If the killer thinks they can keep him dancing like a mouse in a maze, they're about to learn that Dexter knows how to chew through the walls. He drives away from the waterfront. Not in retreat, but to reset the game. Back at his apartment, he lays out everything collected. So far, the collars, the Polaroids, the crime scene photo, the torn fabric, the bullet casing. He studies them like he's dissecting a body, pulling apart layers until the truth shows itself. The bullet casing is the first real lead. The type is rare, used mostly by private security firms and high-end bodyguards. That narrows the suspect pool to a much smaller circle. Then there's the fabric, a coarse black material with a faint chemical scent. He runs it through a quick chemical analysis in his lab setup, and the result is telling: traces of industrial solvent used in metal workshops. Combined with the earlier scent of oil and pine from the cat collar, Dexter maps a path to an industrial complex near the city's northern edge, surrounded by old lumber yards. It's the perfect place for a killer to hide, isolated, full of noise to mask movement, and with plenty of shadows to disappear into. But Dexter isn't going in unprepared this time. He builds a plan. First, he plants false trails. Calls to Harrison from a burner phone, messages on forums he knows the killer has been monitoring, all hinting at a meetup in a completely different part of town. If the killer is truly watching, they'll bite, sending their attention away from his real destination. Second, he gears up with tools designed not for killing, but for catching motion-triggered flash traps, noise decoys, and small tracking darts that can be fired from a distance. Tonight, Dexter isn't walking into their trap. He's making his own. When he arrives at the industrial zone, the place is a maze of towering stacks of timber and half-constructed machinery. The hum of a distant generator masks his footsteps. He moves like a shadow, scanning for the faintest signs of movement. Then he spots it, the flicker of a coat disappearing behind a metal pillar. This time Dexter doesn't give chase. Instead, he circles wide, setting his flash traps in the killer's likely escape routes. Minutes pass, and the silence is thick enough to choke on. Then, a faint scrape of boots against concrete. The killer is moving toward one of the traps. Sudden flare of light floods the space as the first trap goes off. For a split second, Dexter sees the outline of his adversary, tall, lean, masked, holding a camera instead of a weapon. They stumble, blinded, and Dexter seizes the opportunity, firing one of his tracking darts. It hits the target's shoulder, embedding deep before they tear it out and vanish into the shadows again. The game is still on, but now Dexter has something he didn't before, a way to follow them no matter where they run. He returns to his car, tracking device active, watching the small blinking dot on the screen. It moves quickly through the city, weaving through back streets and alleys until it finally stops at an address Dexter knows all too well, an abandoned apartment building just blocks away from where one of his earliest kills took place. The realization twists his gut. This isn't just about Harrison or the thrill of the hunt. The killer is deliberately dragging him through his own history, forcing him to relive every dark corner of his past. It's personal, painfully, surgically personal. Dexter grips the steering wheel, the decision already made. If they want to dig up his past, he'll make sure they're buried in it instead. Tonight, the hunter is back in control. And the mouse? The mouse just found out the cat has claws. Asterisk, the blinking dot on Dexter's tracker doesn't move. It sits there, steady, inside the skeletal frame of the abandoned apartment building. That stillness feels wrong. No pacing, no hesitation. It's as if the killer is waiting for him. Dexter steps out of his car, the street lamp casting his shadow long across the cracked pavement. Every instinct warns him this is the moment the game reaches its climax, but he pushes forward. If this is a trap, he's walking into it with his eyes wide open. Inside, the building smells of mold and dust, a scent of things long dead. Floorboards groan under his boots as he makes his way up the stairs, following the faint pulse of the tracker. On the third floor, he finds the door. It's ajar. The dim glow of a single lamp spills into the hallway, painting the peeling wallpaper in streaks of gold and shadow. He nudges the door open with his foot. The room is staged like a twisted gallery. Polaroids hang from strings stretched across. The ceiling, each one a freeze frame from Dexter's life. Some from crime scenes, others from mundane moments like shopping or walking Harrison to school. Every image is time-stamped, cataloged, and arranged in chronological order. It's not just surveillance. It's obsession. At the far end of the room, a figure stands by the window, tall, masked, and utterly still. In their hand is another photograph, one Dexter can't quite see. "You took something from me," the voice says, distorted, but still carrying a sharp edge of emotion. "And now I've taken everything from you." The figure tosses the photo onto the floor. Dexter glances down and his chest tightens. It's Harrison, bound to a chair, a strip of tape across his mouth. The timestamp is from less than an hour ago. The killer steps forward, closing the distance. You always thought you were the cat, they continue. But you've been the mouse since the moment we met. Then comes the reveal. With deliberate slowness, they pull off the mask, and Dexter's eyes narrow. It's not a stranger. It's someone from deep in his past, Eric Vaughn, a former forensics analyst who had once assisted on cases involving Dexter's kills. Vaughn was presumed dead after a botched police sting years ago. But now he's standing here, very much alive, and carrying the weight of a personal vendetta. Vaughn's story spills out in sharp, cutting sentences. He had been tracking Dexter for years, piecing together patterns no one else saw. The night of his death was staged to slip off the grid entirely. And while Dexter thought he was erasing his own tracks, Vaughn had been walking them in reverse, memorizing every step. The game of cats and mouse wasn't about proving Dexter was a killer Vaughn already knew. It was about making Dexter feel what every victim felt: hunted, cornered, powerless. The conversation is tense, every word balanced on a knife's edge. Vaughn offers a choice: give up his code and surrender, or watch Harrison die. But what Vaughn doesn't know is that Dexter anticipated this level of cruelty. During the earlier false trail setup, he had already sent someone he trusted to secure Harrison. Vaughn's leverage is nothing more than a bluff, and Dexter's silence is part of his trap. In one fluid motion, Dexter springs forward. The fight is brutal and close quarters, fists slamming into walls, glass shattering underfoot. Vaughn's skill is impressive, his movements calculated, but Dexter's precision is surgical. Within moments, he has Vaughn pinned, the hunter. Finally becoming the prey, Dexter doesn't kill him right away. He wants Vaughn to understand the reversal, to feel that creeping dread. Leaning close, Dexter whispers, "Game over." Vaughn's eyes flicker, not with fear, but with something colder, something that makes Dexter pause. "Not yet," Vaughn murmurs just before Dexter notices a small red light blinking in the corner of the room. A camera. Live dash streaming dot somewhere out there, someone else is watching. And as Vaughn's smile widens, Dexter realizes the most chilling truth of all: this game was never meant to be one-on-one.